This episode of The Bill and Callie Show is brought to you by Ray's Movers and Self-Storage, offering storage solutions and all your moving needs. The Green Witch Juice Bar and Cafe for delicious, natural foods, smoothies, and juices.
Well, welcome to our show.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this since I met you at the food bank ribbon cutting last month.
We're excited to have you on our show.
Yeah, and that's really what we'd like to get to is the involvement that Strack and Van Til has with the food bank and the marvelous work that is happening because of that. So let's talk about you first and get on to basically your background, where you went to school, and then talk about the history of the family, and then how the Strack and the Van Til family came to get this joint venture together back in the 50s, right?
Yeah, it's the business. My grandfather, Ernie Strack, and Nick Van Til came together in 1959 with the idea of opening up their first store there in Highland, Indiana at the time, which a lot of people thought they were crazy for going out in the middle of nowhere at 45th and Klein and building this big store. And little did they know that was the change in retail as things moved on into the 60s and on to bigger and much larger stores.
Yeah. So let's talk about you just a bit, and we'll delve back into Strack and Van Til business again. So you went to IU, and like we said before the show, we still let you on. That's where you got your bachelor's administration undergraduate degree, and then you went on to get your master's in business administration at Purdue.
Correct.
And that actually got you on our show.
See, I try to play both sides there.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, I still bleed red. So,
I know,
but I'm always happy to help out IUN and Purdue Northwest now. But I'm a region guy, and grew up in Griffith, Indiana. Went to Griffith High School, and when I went away to college, I came back and lived in Crown Point for a while. But did all the things. Lived by the park in Griffith there at Central Park, and played the baseball. Went down to the courts and played basketball when I get out of school, and at nights. And went to Griffith High School, and then. After that, I went to IU. So, I'd like to say the best 4 years of my life, but I don't know, I'm a little too old for that now.
No.
Well, why don't you talk to us a bit about the history of the your family and then what came to be the Strack and Van Til stores?
Interestingly, both my grandparents on the Strack side were born and lived in Germany, and my grandfather came over in the mid-'20s when Germany was having some economic depression, recession, and wanted to find a better way. And he actually studied to be a piano teacher in Germany. So came over to the United States in the mid-'20s and ended up living in St. Louis for a while, and did some odd jobs there on some various things, but had a friend up here in Gary that talked about the steel mills hiring. So he moved up here, and the story goes he went to the mills on his first day, and at lunchtime he went out for lunch and never came back. He decided it wasn't for him, and he actually knew some other people from Germany that were in the grocery business, and that's how he kind of got his start. So 1929 he joined with another German in downtown Griffith at the corner of Broad Street and Main Street there. I think there's a restaurant there now on the northeast corner, and it was called the Royal Blue, and it was probably no bigger than the size of our room, a table in the middle and shelves around the outside. And they were partners from 1929 probably for I believe to late 30s, early 40s, when my grandfather wanted to expand and go into something a little larger than what they currently had, and his partner just wasn't really interested in that. So at that time, my grandpa moved across the street in Griffith and opened up his own store. I think it used to eventually would become Kaplan's and shoe store.
Sure.
And maybe, I don't know what has gone in there since, but if it's various things over the years. But so at that time in the 50s, it was interesting. I've seen some old newspapers. There was literally like 7-8 different grocery stores in the town of Griffith, and shows you what the type of size of stores and how they were much smaller and probably fewer customers, obviously, and how things have changed over the years.
Yeah.
But at that time, there wasn't a lot of major chains in Northwest Indiana. There was, I think there, Jewel was called Jewel Tea, and maybe some Kroger's were in the area at the time. And a lot of the independents would all get together various times during the year and get together, and they claimed the myth was, strategize how to keep the big box stores out at the time, the
Sure.
Kroger's or the Jewels. And in that group was a gentleman, Nick Van Til, and over time they shared an accountant, and they both were interested in doing a new store, but were very conservative. They didn't like to take on debt, and the accountant put them together and they talked it through, and having a German guy and a Dutch guy come together, and didn't really seem like it might work out, but they ended up going into business and opening up their first Strack and Van Til store at 45th and Klein, where it still stands today,
yes.
59 years later. So it's pretty remarkable to see that the relationship that they had and the culture that they developed for our organization, and so many of the principles and values that they established almost 60 years ago still remain within the fabric of our organization today. And they actually shared an office, and sometimes I go there and I look, and it's 10 feet by 11 feet, and their desks were sitting right up to each other, and every day, you'd sit there, they sat there across from each other for 25 years and never had an argument.
Well,
And
I watched a documentary about Walt Disney, and that's kind of how they started too, and look what happened with him. So it's a good thing, I guess.
But it's amazing. I wonder if they ever knew that it would be a organization that rivaled a lot of the big box stores that came in.
I often had thought about that. At the peak, our company in the last few years have gone through a pretty big change.
Sure.
Obviously we went into bankruptcy and came out a much smaller company, all Indiana focused. But at the height of our company, we were 37 stores, doing well over $1 billion, 8,000 employees, and I'd sit there and think, boy, what would they be thinking right now when they were one store and operating that together? And it was a pretty impressive thing that we were able to, the team and the thousands and thousands of associates that worked for our company over the years, what we achieved and what we're still achieving today as a smaller company. I mean, I always say it always starts and ends with people, and we have been so fortunate to have literally thousands of great employees working for us over the years that make a difference.
Yeah, I imagine back then, if they even imagined that Jeff would be running the helm someday.
Yeah,
you think that would have scared him?
I don't know. I'm sure my grandpa would be extremely proud that I'm in the business.
Right.
To be honest with you, it was never really a position or a job that I ever really thought much about. I was, early on in my career, I was primarily in the operations of the Strack and Van Til division of our company, and I really enjoyed that part. I mean, I love being out there and seeing the customers and seeing our employees and knowing what's going on where the action is. We like to say around here, there's no cash register in this building. The money and the action is in the stores, and that's really where we belong. But, due to various things that had occurred and the opportunity came to step up and take over this position, and it's been very rewarding, very challenging, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we've grown to appreciate, we shop there quite often, is the quality, the cleanliness of the environment,
The friendliness of everybody
the friendliness,
who works there.
the cash registers, and everyone from cash registers, baggers, the produce people. Just an amazing environment.
I mean, that's really what we're trying to do, is create a positive shopping experience for our customers. And again, it's always about the people. We want everyone on our team to be engaged with our customers, because that's why we're in business, is because customers choose to come shop with Strack and Van Til, and we want to make sure that when they leave those doors that they're happy that they decided to shop with us. And we spend a lot of time on training our associates, whether it's onboarding new employees or going through continual customer service training. And really that's part of the culture that Nick and Ernie started almost 60 years ago. Take care of the customer, give back to the community, all those things that are important. Being that neighborhood grocer, that really what made our organization successful for this long.
And now you bring that back, giving back to the community. One of the reasons, in fact, that we met you is at the ribbon cutting at the Food Bank of Northwest Indiana. And do you want to talk about the involvement that the partnership?
Absolutely. I think it's obviously when we're dealing with food, food and how we can help make Northwest Indiana a better place to live has always been a goal of ours. While we sell food, it's really about how we can help make the community a better place, whether it's through jobs or providing assistance to organizations, events, and the food bank is right up our alley. And we've been involved with the food bank from the very beginning. And it's really rewarding now to see what's happened in the last couple years with putting together a capital campaign to raise money to move into a facility that's 5 times as large than the old place that we were in, and over 70,000 square feet. And the really exciting thing about that is how many more people that we can help in Northwest Indiana. I mean, currently in the old facility, we were feeding about 4.5 million meals a year, and the need is much greater than that. And with this facility, we can bring on more product and help reach all the people in Northwest Indiana that are food inefficient. And it's really we are so fortunate in our lives, because when we wake up or go to bed or we're hungry, we have access to go get something to eat. And there's literally over 100,000 people here in Northwest Indiana that don't know where their next meal is coming from. And Strack and Van Til, the Van Til family, the Strack family are proud to help hopefully make a small difference in somebody's lives here in Northwest Indiana. But Food Bank it's been really exciting to see the growth, and then also the opportunities that lay ahead.
Definitely, and it's there's a lot of need still out there, and that's one thing that we were so happy to see the Strack and Van Til family get together and support that effort. And it is a beautiful facility. I remember it as the Handy Andy store.
Yeah.
Glenn Hanna used to own it, and that was when I was in high school, which was much earlier than when you were. And I walked in and I said, "Wow, this is amazing, absolutely amazing." And even if Glenn would be alive today, if he would have known this building that he owned is going for such use, that would have been absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. So any plans forward as far as, do you have any new things coming up within the company, or any new initiatives?
We continue, coming out of bankruptcy or buying an organization out of bankruptcy almost 2 years ago, our main focus has been rebuilding our foundation. What are the principles and values of what made Strack and Van Til special, and how do we keep strengthening in that and really continue to play our part as that neighborhood grocer. We've spent a lot of time investing back in our stores. Obviously, we've gotten into the delivery business, and that's been it's been really interesting to see how that has taken off over the last year.
I don't think we would eat half the time if it weren't for Instacart and things like that.
And I just noticed now the Strack Van Til has their own app.
Yes, the app for our rewards program. And a lot of our investment, while we still take care of the regular maintenance and updating our stores, but on the technology side, and how we look at how we become more efficient, and how do we give our customers more tools to help their shopping experience and save more money, and at the end of the day, again, be a happy Strack and Van Til customer. And the business is changing. I mean, back we were talking earlier about when Burgers was around, and some of the other independents that were around, and now, I mean, there's so many places where people go to buy things that typically once you can only get in a grocery store.
Sure.
And I was amazed to see the dollar store going up on Main Street in Griffith on there.
Gosh,
and
yeah.
you know, and people, well, they're not really your competition. Well, yeah, they are to a certain extent. I mean, we call them kind of like ankle biters, right? They just pick away a little bit of business here and there. You know, next time you need some milk and, you know, detergent, I mean, you don't have to run 5 minutes to our store. You can go 1 minute to that store. So,
sure.
But those are all the things that are changing in our industry. And, you know, online is becoming a much bigger focus for all retailers, not just in the grocery industry. And we're all looking at ways, how do we continue to compete and be relevant to the consumer?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you guys have done a wonderful job. And it's amazing to see the consistency across all the outlets and just the quality of the food, the produce. It rivals anyone that we've seen.
And those are, you know, and when we decided to make an attempt to buy these stores back, you know, we wanted to be an Indiana focused company. You know, this is where our organization grew up, and we know this market. We've been around. I mean, I like to say that, you know, a lot of businesses do a lot of good, not just Strack and Van Til for the community.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's our managers, our leadership team, our cashiers, and our stockers. Those are the people that we're seeing in church on Sunday, at the football games on Friday nights. We are, you know, a lot of people say, hey, we're local, but we are really Indiana made, and we are Northwest Indiana. And I think there's something that, you know, the community in Northwest Indiana really still strives and looks for. I mean, you look at the banks that we have here. I mean, it's the People's Bank, it's the Centier Bank, it's the local people, and there's other examples like that around. That Indiana it's different than Illinois, it's that neighborhood feeling, and that's the niche that we can provide. And we realize at the end of the day, we still have to do our job in the store and make sure we're keeping up with the new trends. Right. And you know, that's why we spend a lot of time looking at competition, going to different trade shows, and looking at how we can improve what we're already doing. And that's the exciting and fun part of the business.
Talking about that, we better get you back to your job, making the donuts.
Yeah,
someone's
got to make the donuts, you know, and that's a great example of something that we make fresh every morning.
Yes,
and that makes us a little bit different than everybody else, you know, and that goes to that quality part and finding things in our store, whether it's our fried chicken or our donuts or other things that we do that, you know, that's a Strack and Van Til thing. And,
yes, it is.
And those things matter, and people have grown up with them, and that's what they want.
Great. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you being our guest today.
Yeah, and taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. We
Definitely,
appreciate that.
It's a pleasure
Beautiful
to talk
facility
to you.
you have here, and beautiful work that you're doing with the food bank. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much.
And folks, this has been Bill and Kelly with Jeff Strack, Strack and Van Til, President and CEO. And we'll say goodbye for now. Bye.
This episode of the Bill and Callie Show is brought to you by Ray's Movers and Self-Storage, offering storage solutions and all your moving needs. The Green Witch Juice Bar and Cafe for delicious, natural foods, smoothies, and juices.